Grow your own kimchi in your own garden? Go to the store and buy it? We're going to answer those questions. Welcome back to Teach a Man to Fish channel. In today's video, we're going to be making kimchi from bokchoy that we harvested this morning, grew in our own garden, also with some store-bought additions to round it out. We absolutely love kimchi. The health benefits, the fermented food, it's something we enjoy the taste of. Let's go ahead and get started. Step one is to take our main ingredients, which is our grown bok choy. It's very easy to grow bok choy in your garden if the conditions are right. We did struggle with some heat early in the spring, and you can see the pak choy that we had bolted or went to seed very quick, while the bok choy just puttered along and did what it's supposed to do. I highly recommend, if the conditions are right in your region, to plant a row of it. When you move into the second part of the season, you'll pull those out and peppers can follow in behind, tomatoes for the warmer part of the seasons. Bok choy, pak choy, cabbage, they're all early spring or fall products that you want to grow. All that young cabbage that you see in the garden there is going to become sauerkraut in the future, another fermented favorite of ours. We've got some Napa cabbage and some baby bok choy that we picked up at the Oriental grocer. And I think that's it. The rest of it are sub-ingredients. Things like carrots, radish, pears, green onions. Oh, and we're going to throw some Korean cabbage in there too during the wilt. So, step one, let's wilt it all down with kosher salt, clean it up, and let that go. We'll put the salt in, and then every 30 minutes, gently churn it over and let that moisture sweat out. Let it become flexible, wilted, and then we go into step two with that main ingredient. When you're cutting up that head cabbage, you want to clear away the scuzzy external leaves, give it a quick rinse, and then you're going to cut parallel to the core or that base, and then pull the leaves apart. When you make that cut, don't cut up into the leaves, because you want those leaves to either rip along their natural rip lines or separate wholly as they're interwoven together, and you'll get a better wilt, a better presentation if you protect that whole leaf instead of making sharp cuts. The amount of salt will vary based on the volume of greens that you have to wilt, but I would start out with sprinkling about 3 tablespoons in and look at the results. Every 30 minutes doing that churn over, you should start to see water forming in the bottom as it sweats out of those vegetables. If you're not seeing the effects that you want, throw a little more salt in. You'll wind up washing all that out later. It just gives it that sea salt saltiness that is the flavor and saltiness level that the human body loves. You don't necessarily have to use sea salt. Any salt will work for this. Table salt, kosher salt. We like to use kosher salt. You can see that the leaves are starting to wilt. That green is getting more intense and vibrant. The water's piling up in the bottom, and the consistency that you're looking for is very rubbery. You don't want it to snap and break, but bend and flex. That's what you're looking for. This process can plan on about 3 hours, maybe an hour or two more. As you get closer to the finish on the wilt, you get the rest of your vegetables together, and that is a 2-part process, one of which is putting the ingredients into a food processor and turning it into a puree, and the rest is the cutting up, which is a specific format that's critical. You're pretty much making sticks out of the radish and the carrots, save half of that white onion to go into the food processor with the other ingredients. You will want to peel the outside of both the radish and obviously the carrots, but that exterior to the radish needs to go away as well. You'll want to have two separate bowls of these secondary ingredients. One that's for the food processor and the other for your sticks that are made. Into that second bowl, you're going to want to put your food processor ingredients. Just look at this garlic peeler. Even smooth work. There'll be a link down below to purchase it if you'd like. You're going to put that Asian pear in. Then you're going to clean up a sprig of ginger that's about the size of your thumb. Dice that up and put it in the same bowl. Please don't let fermenting foods be intimidating for you. There's so many videos out there that they tell you the way you have to do this. You have to have these ingredients. Cooking is about your taste, the adventure of learning it yourself, making it your own. And as far as fermenting foods is concerned, we've been preserving foods in this manner for thousands of years. You are not going to mess it up. So absolutely, give it a try. Now it's time to wash those greens off. You're going to wash them 3 times and give them a taste to see if it has that saltwater, seawater taste and the vegetables are to the crispiness that you want. Be careful not to overdo it. You don't want your greens to be too soggy. Next, you're going to put in brined shrimp. This is an Asian product that's best to find, and really what this is adding is a little bit of flavor, but mostly salt. This is incredibly salty and a critical step, really. It disappears into your mix. You're not going to have little bits of shrimp staring you in the face. Also, fish sauce. Again, it's really not fishy, but it's a very salty sauce. So you're adding in those complex flavors as well as salt. You'll throw in some beef bouillon. We much prefer better than bouillon, beef bouillon. The flavor is phenomenal. Again, very salty. You never add any salt. What you'll also notice is we didn't add any sugar or rice starch or potato starch or anything that traditionally makes this clumpy. We're watching our carbs, and keeping those out prevents it from loading up with carbs. And that is the chili flakes. That's the star of the show and adds that spicy flavor. For the next part, you are going to want to remove jewelry, watches, and find yourself a pair of gloves, because that chili flake adds that traditional classic red color to your kimchi, and the gloves prevent that from settling into your hands or into your jewelry. Any counters that you have that are light in color, when this touches it, you'll be cleaning that off the counter. Mix that all together by hand. Make sure you have a large enough tub. We have this butcher tub that we actually use for cleaning deer, and it's got to be big enough to hold all that you're putting together. Then add in your greens. Mix all of those together. Pay particular attention to getting into the center of your greens. Layer it in, work it in so that that's spread all throughout. When it goes into the ferment, the better you have this mixed, and don't be too rough on it. You want to be a little bit gentle so you're not damaging your greens or splitting them apart, unless you're making the informal kimchi. Believe it or not, there's 2 types of kimchi. A formal and an informal, and we're doing a bit of both, a little bit of chopped in this as well as whole chunks, so you get to pick and choose. Mix it all together very well and then put it into your fermenting jar. We're using a cookie jar for that because it's cheap. Link down below where you can purchase it, and as long as you keep it out of the sun in a cool place, throw some towels over it, it will, over the next 2 or 3 days, achieve that tangy ferment flavor that everyone craves. And then it's ready to go into jars or eaten straight from the fermenting jar. You can use those red chili powder flakes to your own taste. We like to kick ours up a notch. Every now and then you'll want to press the air bubbles as a result of the fermenting process that form. Just press it down a little bit to get it compressed, and it will help with the ferment as well as keep it from overflowing your jar. So here it is. We're on, I believe, day 3 or 4. It has gotten the tangy flavor that we like. It's now sitting in the fridge, or we've put it in these jars, and obviously we've done some taste testing. During the ferment, the tanginess increases, and that taste testing is where you're saying, bingo, that's exactly the way I want it. It'll get more tangy in the fridge, but you want to put it in the fridge and stop the ferment at that tanginess. And I have not eaten one of these baby bokchoy yet, but this is what my mouth is watering as I talk about it here. The taste is amazing. The crunch is perfection. These are the right ingredients, and the bokchoy, golly, I can hardly talk with all the salivation. I'm smelling this. The bokchoy that we grew in the garden, some parts of it were pretty heavy. That's simply put it on the plate whole and cut it, which is another way. There's informal and then a formal way to make it. Those whole pieces are the formal way. And this baby bokchoy, here we go, a whole piece. So incredibly good, and good for you. That's a piece of the bokchoy that we grew. So much goodness. I can't even hear myself getting healthier. So YouTube says that this video is perfect for your viewing habits. This is our latest upload, and over here is a playlist you might just enjoy. I hope you liked it. If you did, please click like, subscribe, share, and come on back for more.